VShojo reached out to me in 2023, asking me if I want to join at the end. I think it was at the end. And I don't want to be too uneducated. I can just check. Hold up before I say shit. I think it was the end of 2023. But I can check. I can literally just check. Okay, it was summer, so it was the second half of the year of 2023. And when a few of the talents walked out, a little while after, they recruited people. I was amongst one of those people I tried to recruit. We got to the contract negotiation phase, which is where everything fell apart because I strongly disagreed with the contract. It was very greedy, very exploitative of my assets. They tried to monetize my assets that I worked for. So let me go into more detail and explain what the frick is going on. When they reached out, I was very, very, very particular about what I want and what I have to offer and my worth. And when they reached out, the person who reached out, bless them, they are an absolute sweetheart. An absolute sweetheart. They promised the fucking world. They had this big ass, long ass meeting and promised the world. Like this, they had this like massive PowerPoint. Hold up. I can't check how long, but it's very long. We had this super long call. It doesn't say how long, but we had this super massive long call of like everything they offer, which was all the way from, you know, legal advice, shows. It was just a whole lot of stuff. I do need a mental refresher real quick. Hold up. Let me mute everything. They had this like beautifully crafted thing of like how VShojo operates, first of all, how they're true to their values, the tech team, and all the strong finances. They were showcasing all the events they can do for me, online, offline, organization-based projects like project management, third-party support, blah, blah, blah. Online events such as debuts, coordinating with contractors, hype and marketing, media, assets, and whatnot. They have case studies on all the things they have been doing, such as the Minecraft server and what they're doing for that, IRL stuff and VIRL stuff, backpacking and whatnot. For which talents they did this for, what debut events they have been doing, what concerts, birthday concerts, offline events, online events, all the highlight videos they have for those online events, consultations, international relationship industry, public relations, finance, security, DMCA takedowns, copyright, escalation systems, interviews, blah, blah, blah. PR management, interviews, takedowns with like all kinds of teams that they work with, helping with commissioning, games, collabs, blah, 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 support in voice acting, scheduling support, even lessons for like other stuff, mental health and therapy, merchandise, merch production. And then we got to the point, and that was all beautiful. That was where everything, this is where everything is like, holy shit, this is insane. Also, then we came to a list of things that are very important to me. I can run down the list super quick. It should be easy to find. I don't have the list saved anyway, but I know who I send it to. So if you give me a hot moment, I can find the list. Because I have a list of like non-negotiable values. I absolutely, entirely, without a doubt, non-negotiable. Absolutely not. Okay. This is a big ass list. I also noted some red flags that I noticed right away, but keep in mind, those are when I at this stage of the contract, when I call them red flags, it is more so I've been dealing with contracts for a while at this point in my career. Lots of contracts are, I hate this word so much, standard contracts. So things you can negotiate. You can negotiate, right? My biggest contract was the revenue share. I did not like how their revenue splits with merchandise and similar things. I'm not gonna go through the whole list like in detail. It is literally like a 2-page fucking doc, bro. But they wanted too much revenue share. Way too much. Like, that was absolutely not it. And the money they offered me in exchange for taking this much of my revenue was just not even that was an insult. It was an insult. The money they said they would provide me with each month for stuff like concerts, models, air assets, commissions, whatever, it was an insult. With how much they take, it's an insult. I also didn't like how they kept calling 50-50 splits. That was a genuine red flag, because they kept calling 50-50 splits the what was the word? Industry standard. Any corporate that hires you and always puts emphasis on industry standard, run. Run. First of all, 50-50 is not the industry standard. It is not. Absolutely not. No. It should be much closer to, you know, and like some people get it as low as 20%, 15 or 10. 50-50 is abysmal. Also, third-party deals was also the biggest red flag. They wanted 5% on third-party deals. I wanted them to negotiate it down to 0. If you don't know what third-party deals are, third-party deals is stuff that they have nothing to do with. It's me doing stuff. Mine. If Mythic brings me an offer, they want 5% on top of Mythic's. Like, what? Nah, so I was like, negotiate this down to 0. One thing that wasn't a red flag at first, I also told them, stay the fuck away from gamer subs. Stay the fuck away. Literally, stay the fuck away. And at first, they were like, sure, fair. But then they tried to be dodgy about it, and they were like, for the time being, yes, until we renegotiate the contract. I was like, no, stay the fuck away. No renegotiation. And their excuse for this was, as part of VShojo and part of the brand name, part of the income and opportunities that come my way are due to VShojo in my name. And I said, no, all of these things are stuff I did myself. You don't touch it. So yeah, the biggest red flags were, one of them was they refused to go down to 0% third-party deal fees. Again, third-party means Mythic gets me a sponsor and VShojo isn't touching it. I get myself something, I don't want VShojo to fucking touch it. And they couldn't let go of that. They just couldn't. I said, if you have involvement, if you're involved in any of these and help out, you can have maximum 5% based on involvement. But if there's no involvement, it's 0, and they refused. Another, probably the by far biggest red flag. I say this now, but maybe later on I will get reminded of something else. The by far biggest red flag. The two, sorry, that kind of intertwined. The by far biggest red flag was I asked them to sign a non-compete based on gut feeling and hunches I may have had from rumors that have made their rounds. I asked them to sign a non-compete between them and Mythic. It gives me a sponsor. Let's just keep math really simple, right? If Mythic gives me a sponsor and says they'll pay you $100 if you play this game for an hour, I don't want VShojo to be legally able to go behind my back and contact the sponsor and say, she'll do it for 80, just so VShojo will then give the sponsor to me and they will be able to take the cut. I want them to sign a non-compete so they can't do that. So VShojo can't go to the sponsor and be like, no, she'll do it for this much, just so they can give me the sponsor and they get their cut. I don't want that. Mythic got me the sponsor first. I want you to sign a non-compete that you can't fuck over me and or Mythic. I want a non-compete. Very standard thing. Very standard thing. They didn't want to sign that. They said, when I brought this up, I have proof of everything, by the way, and before anyone tries to pull some weird sneaky shit or VShojo try some weird sneaky shit, I have proof of everything. I have proof of everything, okay? Everything. The whole 2 hours of the first one and whatever of the next following meetings. I prove everything. Anyways, I got all the receipts. hours of receipts. Anyways, they then tried to argue when I asked about the non-compete. They were like, hey, we operate on a trust basis. And I was like, don't give a shit. Don't care. It's a contract. There is no trust in a contract. There is no trust basis. I know people like, there is no trust. There is no we don't operate on jack shit except for the black on fucking white on this fucking contract. Trust basis. The second red flag was in this beautiful first interview where the very beautiful person in the very beginning, they presented everything of what VShojo can and will do for me. I asked straight up, because the contract had none of that in there. Not one thing, except for the parts I want money off, not one of those things was part of it. The only thing part of it was the money they offer me a year and something else. I forgot about what it was, but there were two things. But there was just, again, money, transactional money things that they had to put in there. So not one thing that they offer me as a service was in there. So I simply asked, put them in a contract. Everything you offer, put it in a contract. Needlessly to say, that part never happened. And that is literally making a deal with the fucking devil, because if all of these things are things you promise, there is absolutely no reason to not have them in a contract. These are things you promise. You swore, that's your whole selling point. But when I ask you to put it on paper in the contract that you want me to sign, you refuse. No. No. The only thing, apart from all the negative, the only thing that was positive in this whole thing was when I asked VShojo if I can reach out to the other talents, because they're trying to hire me. They're trying to make me sign with the company. I said I want to reach out to the other girls and make sure they want me there. First of all, I want to make sure they're aware I'm being recruited. Second of all, I want to make sure they want me there because one part of my list of demands was I refuse to do fake shit. I want that the girls want me there. And they did not tell me to not do that. So that was the only thing where I can be like, okay, cool. That's the only thing where they were like, you may reach out to the other parts of VShojo. Okay, cool. So that was the only good thing that was part of the contract or contract negotiation. They were fine with me reaching out to the other girls. And I did. Yeah, and I did. And after all of that, I decided to not join. I decided if they can't put what I want in there, no. And the reason I call this legal robbery is, again, now that you have a bit more contact. Also, they wanted me to have quality payouts. I suggested that's bad. I don't want that. It makes it difficult to track stuff, and human error can persist during these. I don't want that. Which, you know, that isn't necessarily the biggest red flag. It's just like it leaves room for error that can be left unaccounted because it's difficult to keep track of these things. Outlinks. Yeah. I also wanted to negotiate that any concept they help with, any lore, whatever the fuck, is 100% owned by VShojo. I wanted to negotiate the splits on projects that VShojo is only a partial owner of these things. It's all belonging to me. They don't own any of this. They wanted 100% ownership of everything they help. I didn't like that. What else? I also wanted to argue that VShojo cannot take down whatever they want. If I make a tweet and VShojo doesn't like it, they have the right to ask me to take it down. I have I believe it was 1 week, but I'm not sure. But I wanted them to have a clause in the contract that basically makes it, you can ask me to take it down, but you can't force me. So if I don't want it, if I don't want to take it down, you simply have to get rid of my contract. I don't like how they can force me to take something down, and I have to comply within, I think it was a week. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I have to actually check the actual contract. This is just my personal notes I'm looking through. But I didn't like that, so I wanted them to add that. I want to make sure they can't abuse this. So I wanted to negotiate the stuff that if I have a week to comply, and if I refuse to take it down, they can terminate my contract instead. That's what I wanted to do. I also wanted an editing team for YouTube relevance because they promise marketing and all kinds of other things. So I said I want an editing team and I want a base amount of things they do for YouTube, and I want to make sure they have a minimum effort a week that they have to reach for YouTube exposure and YouTube stuff. They didn't want to do that either. The no conflict of interest negotiation, the do not compete hasn't been signed. There was no termination clause in the contract at all whatsoever, which means that I would have to go the full 2 years. I wanted them, let me just check. I wanted so that when the contract renews, they have to inform me, and if I don't provide my signature for the contract renewal, the contract doesn't renew. I want them to terminate the contract if I don't renew. And I also, another reason, the exit clause, I mainly wrote this down. Sorry, I have to catch up on like my notes. I wrote this down because all of the things they offer, if they do not offer them, again, everything they promised, if they end up not fulfilling their end of the contract, I basically have my exit clause. So I don't even necessarily need them to have an exit clause, but I need them to have those things in there because if they don't comply, I can dip. That's another reason as to why I want those things in there, because that basically becomes my exit clause. If I, for example, tell them, hey, if I have a problem with this, you have to help me. Hey, do not compete. Hey, do not do this, this, and this. And if I don't do those things, I can leave. We successfully negotiated, just to also have some positive things, we successfully negotiated security and safety issues. We successfully negotiated project management, such as lore videos, podcasts, VTuber animes, game shows, 3D shows, D&D streams, 3D space technical expansion, and stuff like this. We successfully negotiated terms on operational marketing and everything tied to it. And I said that I negotiated this because VShojo had the presentation when recruiting me for the first time, stating a bunch of services they promised to provide, to sell the idea of VShojo, but none of them were part of the contract. So we listed the most important ones in the contract to reflect that. But they didn't want to add all of these things in there. They said they would add them in there, but in the actual negotiation with the actual contract, it still ended up not being in there. So only partially. Yeah, the payouts wasn't a red flag. It was just questionable because I wanted to be more industry standard based. Let me just see. Sorry, this is a long note. Oh yeah, there was one thing that we agreed on because there was a clause in the contract that they own all my material basically indefinitely, which sounds fucked up. But their reasoning, and I understand, is if I'm part of VShojo and they have a music video of mine up, for example, and I terminate my contract, they would have to take it down too, because I no longer own my IP, because I own my own IP. But I think successfully, in my notes, it's marked as successful, but the problem is those notes are before we negotiated the contract on paper. This were verbal negotiations where they just said like, yeah, too. But I basically said that stuff that I created and uploaded while being part of VShojo can stay up, but you don't own any of my whatever forever. So I wanted this clause to be more specific in the contract, that I understand what they tried to do. They don't want to get fucked over by tenants leaving and then having to delete their existence from everything. All the merch, all the videos, all the music stuff ever created, all the concerts, all the commentary, everything ever created. They can't go through all of this every time a tenant leaves and delete everything. But I wanted them to reflect that this will only ever reflect stuff that is created as part of VShojo. Nothing before, nothing after, nothing following. I don't have a business degree, I just have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lawyer who may or may not have dealt with contracts of it may have been suspiciously enough a very similar contract So this wasn't the first rodeo. I just have a great, amazing lawyer. I love him so much. But yeah, and then I asked him to knock out of all of the third-party stuff out of the contract, which in my notes I marked as resolved and successfully negotiated. But again, once we actually did get to the contracting phase, with their lawyer, who was very unprofessional, by the way, because she was constantly just zoning out. She constantly didn't know where the fuck we were. Every time we needed her to reply to something, she was always doing like can you repeat that for me? Can we go over this again? I'm like, bitch, you're not paying, you ain't paying attention. Holy shit, you're not paying any attention. You're literally zoned the fuck out anyways. So that was just frustrating, because I was like, you're supposed to be my lawyer when I'm joining? Ugh! I also didn't like her condescending tone whenever she spoke about industry standards and making me and my lawyer feel like the people who don't know what we're talking about, when we are the actual golden standard of industry standards. We did not ask in anything something that isn't industry standard. I just was so excited to join the girls, and we literally only did everything super industry standard. But they're the ones who always claim that all of their cuts and everything is industry standard. Also, another thing with everything that's bad, I would like to note, VShojo does not take a cut of your Twitch dashboard. At least that's what I've been assured. All of the cuts they take is money from sponsors, third-party deals, merch, blah blah blah. But like I said, as a year-long successful indie, I wanted them to stay away from all third-party shit they have nothing to do with, and they just couldn't comply with that. So yeah.